The Indiana Fever played the Chicago Sky on Barbie night.
Caitlin Clark took over Chicago. She signed autographs for hours.
Signed over 200 autographs. Was out for a long period of time, signing for fan after fan.
What happened to Miss Angel Reese? What happened to that? Because it looked like Caitlin Clark went to Chicago and took the city over.
People are showing up just to witness Caitlin Clark. It's like she's the damn Beatles.
CC with MJ. CC get treated like MJ in the rack. This is the star power. Every city, every state, anywhere in the world that she goes, it's gonna look like Panda.
Chicago was Angel Reese's city until Caitlin Clark showed up.
Give Caitlin Clark all the miles so she won't. She running Chicago, the queen of the rack.
She didn't even play, yet fans warmed her like she was MJ in his prime.
Because it looked like Caitlin Clark went to Chicago and took the city over. It looked like she took the city.
Autographs, chants, packed stands, all for Caitlin. She didn't take the court, she took over the city. Drop a comment if you're riding with Caitlin Clark, all the way.
All the way.
I don't think you can have a more great role model than Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark unlocked millions for the WNBA.
Chicago was buzzing for Barbie night, a big game between the Fever and the Sky.
The Indiana Fever played the Chicago Sky on Barbie night.
But the biggest moment of the night, it happened during warm-ups or the tip-off. It happened before the game even started, because while Angel Reese was expected to shine in front of her home crowd, it was Caitlin Clark, sidelined and in street clothes, who completely hijacked the atmosphere. Fans flood at the arena hours early, not just to see basketball, but to catch a glimpse of Caitlin.
It was running down on Caitlin Clark like she was Michael Jordan.
The United Center transformed into Ashreen for her. Fever Gersi Sautenabard Sky ones.
Clark, while she's got a break from the action, doesn't get a break from the autographs.
The fans standing there, she signed autographs for like 2-3 hours.
Kids, families, all waiting in lines, holding signs, chasing autographs, and Caitlin, she delivered. She spent over 20 minutes signing marathon, 200 autographs.
Caitlin Clark spent 20 minutes signing autographs. She made her way 2/3 of the arena. She signed literally hundreds of autographs.
She signed autographs for hours. Real people trying to get autographs.
Row across the arena.
Going up just to witness Caitlin Clark. It's like she's the damn Beatles.
Even
People weren't just watching her. They were sprinting down from the upper deck shopping to get a handshake or even a moment of eye contact. It was Beatlemania and sneakers.
Went to Chicago and took the city.
Commentators were stunned. The crowd wasn't reacting like this for any player in uniform. They were reacting like Caitlin Clark was the main event disputant, logging a single minute. This wasn't a fluke or some paid PR stunt. This was real organic love. Fans showed up and out, not for Chicago, but for Caitlin. She didn't have to score a point to own the spotlight.
Know whether or not Caitlin was playing that game until the very end. There are hundreds of fans that were there to see Caitlin.
She was the show. The wild part, most people didn't even know if she would play. She'd been dealing with a groin injury, but still, the masses came not to see the game, to see her.
Reebok campaign, come to your trap, take over your trap. What happened to that?
That's not just star power, that's cultural impact.
Talked about the other day in New York, but you just have to appreciate about Caitlin Clark in these games. She knows a huge portion of these fans were hoping to see her play, and obviously they're not getting to, but she goes out of her way to make sure pregame she's signing autograph after autograph. We talked about the other day in New York when it was 108 autographs that she signed.
And while Angel Reese was prepping for her big night at home, Caitlin Clark walked into her city.
Does this count as taking over a trap? It's when you walk into your trap and take over.
Into her trap and took it over.
Are getting treated like Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, Chief Keef, Lil Durk, all.
For months now, Angel Reese has been pushing her narrative hard. Old Reebok campaigns, big headlines, and a swagger-filled slogan. Come to your trap, take over your trap. It was meant to be her moment. Chicago was her trap, her city, her crowd, her stage 2 professions, the face of the league. But on this night, that slogan backfired in the worst way possible, because Caitlin locked straight into that same trap and took it over like a queen, claiming her throne.
What happened to Miss Angel Reese? She's all in Indiana during All-Star, and her Reebok campaign, come to your trap, take over your trap. What happened to that? Because it looked like Caitlin Clark went to Chicago and took the city over.
Signed over 200 autographs. Was out for a long period of time, signing for fan after fan. So trying to make sure that she still is accessible to the fans here and helps.
Let's be clear, Angel wasn't invisible, but she wasn't the draw. She wasn't the magnet. All eyes were on Caitlyn. Fans aren't chanting for Angel. They weren't lining up to meet her. They weren't wearing Reese jerseys. They weren't.
And then we got Ice Cube bombing on Angel Reese, talking about, man, she's not worth the money that Caitlin Clark was worth.
Literally running just Tobe in the same building as Caitlin Clark. We're talking about fans treating Clark like she was Michael Jordan, Derrick Rose, and Chief Keef rolled into one.
Ice Cube had to say about the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark thing and why he would not offer the money to Angel Reese. With Caitlin Clark, it was just to unlock millions of dollars for the league. They didn't tell us the same thing about Angel Reese, so I don't know if we can make that same offer.
That's not social media hype. That's real-world impact. One video showed fans pushing down the aisles just to get hair attention like she was the Pied Piper off basketball.
And she's not worth 5M, sorry. Caitlin Clark is.
Meanwhile, Angel's carefully curated camping, the flashy videos, the Instagram captions. The takeover grinding suddenly looked forced because Caitlyn did it for real. No Kamars needed, no filters, just presence. Then came the next blow. Ice Cube, a major voice in sports and entertainment, flat out said Angel Reese was not worth the $5 million that was once offered to Caitlin Clark.
Women lie, the numbers don't.
His exact words. Caitlin Clark unlocked millions of dollars for the WNBA. We didn't hear that about Angel Reese.
Star powered every city, every state, anywhere in the world that she goes, it's gonna.
That's brutal. Not because it's mean, but because it's honest.
She have officially come to your trap and taken over your trap.
It's her city taking over the trap. And I just saw this post actually, Brick Center, Caitlin Clark took over Angel Reese's trap.
I think so. I mean, I think it's hard not to when you don't get a lot of rest and recovery. I always think the WNBA season is like this sprint marathon. And you see more injuries when you don't have a chance to recover. But it's not like, individual teams are the only ones that deal with it. This is a league-wide collective issue. So, and I also think, you see the NBA, for example, has a similar cadence, but they've got 30 teams, and they're not quite as much crisscrossing time zones, crisscrossing the country. So it's the challenge of the footprint of our schedule, no doubt.
Youth isn't about who talks the loudest. It's about who brings results.
Over 200 autographs. Was out for a long period of time, signing for fan after fan. So trying to make sure, that she still is accessible to the fans here and helps create memories for so many of them. Here was Caitlin.
And right now, Caitlin Clark is moving numbers, moving fans, and moving culture, while Angel is still trying to manufacture a rivalry at every turn. Caitlin has done nothing but stay focused, stay poised, and compel. And the fans, they've been honest, they've chosen. In fact, many of them have completely abandoned the hype train around Angel, not out of hate, but because Caitlin gave them something real.
Don't think you can have a more great role model than Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark unlocked millions for the W.
What's even more telling is that Caitlin even respond, no shade, not tweets. She let her silence be louder than Angel's marketing team. It's one thing to drop a catchy slogan. It's another thing to have the entire city chanting your name while you're injured in the bench. Angel said, come to your trap, take over your trap. But it was Caitlin Clark who walked into Chicago, her so-called trap, and with an autograph pen, snatched the crown.
You are a star in your own right, but you are not Caitlin Clark. It's a difference.
The autographs, the chants, the crowd takeover. None of it happened by accident, because what we're witnessing with Caitlin Clark isn't just it's a movement, one that's been building quietly for months. One that explains exactly why fans are choosing her and leaving Angel Reese behind. Let's start with the most overlooked fact. Caitlin Clark shows up even when she can't suit up. She could have stayed in the back. She could have sat quietly on the bench and let the spotlight pass. Instead, she spent over 20 minutes signing autographs for over 200 fans.
She understands the responsibility of being the face of the league.
Many of whom didn't even know she was going to be there. It wasn't staged, it wasn't sponsored. It was pure one-woman giving her time and attention to the people who look up to her the most. That's the kind of thing people remember. That's the kind of thing that builds loyalty, not just fame.
Have a more great role model than Caitlin Clark.
And while Caitlin was giving joy to kids and families in the crowd, Angel Reese was still stuck trying to prove something, throwing shade, attaching herself to Clark headline. Pushing a rivalry thought feels more desperate with each The truth fans can feel that energy. They know when something is genuine and when it's forced. Caitlin Doest have to clap back. She doesn't thave to flex on Instagram. She doesn't thave to remind anyone of her value. Her present speaks volumes.
Clark took over the city of Chicago, and this is the star power that Ice Cube was referring to. Every city, every state, anywhere in the world that she goes, it's gonna look like this. It's gonna look like Panda.
She doesn't talk trash. She doesn't beg for attention. She earns it with grace, professionalism, and a rare emotional intelligence for someone still in hierarchy season.
You don't have to turn to attach yourself to this girl at every single.
This is why families bring their kids. Tossy her. This is why entire arenas are filled with signs and jerseys for Caitlin, not the home team. It's not just about her talent. It's about the way she carries herself. Even off the court, while dealing with injury, she still steps up. Caitlin Clark adding a little carpal tunnel to her groin issue. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's what real stars do.
See with MJ. CC get treated like MJ in the rack. Give Caitlin Clark all the miles so she won't. She running Chicago, the queen of the rack. Because it looked like Caitlin Clark went to Chicago and took the city over. It looked like.
And the league is feeling it. 2. Sponsors are aligning. TV ratings are resurging. Merchandise is flying. City issues never even played in our Bozing Beffer.
The Indiana Fever, they are now doing enough where taking off the pressure from Caitlin Clark to return even more so she can come back.
This is the Caitlin Clark effect, and it's betrayal. Now, let's talk about Angel Reese for a second. She's talented, she's marketable, she has a future in the league, but somewhere along the way, she get more obsessed with being compared to Caitlin than with growing herself. And that obsession is starting to backfire.
It's hard not to when you don't get a lot of rest and recovery. I always think the WNBA season is like this sprint marathon, and you see more injuries when you don't have a chance to recover. But it's not like individual teams are the only ones that deal with it. This is a league-wide collective issue. So and I also think you see the NBA, for example, has a similar cadence, but they've got 30 teams, and they're not quite as much crisscrossing time zones, crisscrossing the country. So it's the challenge of the footprint of our schedule.
You constantly position yourself as someone else's rival, and the fans never see it that way. You end up playing catch up to a story you didn't. That's where Angel is right now, and the fans, they're walking away. Not Bacchus, Angel isn't good, but because Caitlin is great and doesn't need to tear anyone down to prove it.
It's real, measurable, and growing.
Caitlin Clark, in general, so popular.
Clark has firmly established herself as the biggest name in the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark, she's going to play for 10 years. You got 10 years of price. This is the worst she's ever going to be. So I think they have all the leverage.
Looked like she took City over. Even ESPN confirmed that Caitlin is taking her rehab slow day by day because she wants to come back only when she's ready to lead again. The Fever are improving in her absence. She's not rushing to steal the spotlight. She's waiting until she can actually elevate the team again. A nice win for the Indiana Fever. Are now doing enough. We're taking off the pressure from Caitlin Clark Toratorn even more, so she can come back at full strength. It's not ego, that's wisdom. And that's what makes Caitlin different. Not just the shots, the stats, or the swagger, but the substance. People are of drama, tired of forced. They want someone to root for. Woes consistent, humble, and real. That's Caitlin Clark. And it's why Chicago and the entire WNBA fanbase is standing with her. Not just now, not just for one game, but for the long run. Caitlin Clark didn't need a jersey to dominate. She didn't need a ball in her hand to win the night. All she needed was to show up, and the entire city of Chicago followed. This was supposed to be Angel Reese's moment, but in seconds, fans made their choice. They abandoned the hype and stood behind the real star. Caitlin Clark didn't just take over she took over the culture. Hype is no longer just noise. It's real, measurable, and growing. Caitlin Clark in general, so popular. Clark has firmly established herself ASD's biggest name in the WNBA. Play for 10 years. You got 10 years of this is the worst she's ever going to be. So, I think they have all the leverage.